Folks, welcome into That Betting Show. March 8th, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. March Madness Conference tournaments in full swing. We'll get you covered today. Antonio Brown information, we got you there too. Teddy Savransky, give him a follow at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at RightSide VP. Big day today at the channels at sportsbookreview.com. A lot of college basketball to go over. Let's get right into, though, the hot topic of the day, Teddy. Overnight, news breaks. Antonio Brown goes to Siberia, a.k.a. Buffalo, rescinded in the morning. We're supposed to have this done, confirmation, ready to go on Antonio Brown, Teddy, by Friday. Is it going to get done today, and where the heck is he going?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the organizations that seem to be most interested in Antonio Brown, the Redskins, the Raiders, the Bills are in the talk. We're not talking about winning organizations. We're talking about organizations that are trying to sell tickets to their fan bases because they're not sold out for 2019. So the Antonio Brown saga, it's big in the media in terms of how it's going to affect these teams on the field. I mean, we're talking less than a half-win difference for the team that signs Antonio Brown in terms of their season win number versus the team that doesn't. I don't expect him to be an impact player in the NFL in 2019, and all this yibber-yabber is just that. It's yibber-yabber. You call it the silly season, Donnie, and it's very true. The rumors you hear are rumors from deals 3 days ago that got shot down, like what we're talking about with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and when we're looking at Antonio, I mean, nobody's questioning the type of player Antonio Brown is, the amount of production that you can get at him, but sometimes the headaches don't match up to what you're going to get on the field, and especially for an organization where you're not saying, boy, we're really one wide receiver away from winning the Super Bowl this year. If he goes to Buffalo, if he goes to the Oakland Raiders, but the best part about this, Teddy, is I like to read between the tea leaves. Something tells me last night that this deal was consummated to the Bills, and Antonio Brown went nuclear, basically saying, I'm not going to Buffalo. I'm dictating my terms right here, so we'll see where it fares out. But when they were looking for a first-round pick, let's not forget, Teddy, first-round pick they wanted, one of the highest-paid wide receivers who wants to get even more guaranteed money in his 30s going to a losing organization, it looks like. Doesn't make too much sense to me.
No, it's not worth it. You know, I mean, we spent this whole offseason saying, hey, I don't want Manny Machado. I don't want Manny Machado. Whoever signs Manny Machado is not going to be happy. Antonio Brown falls into that same category of a guy who's making a whole lot of money. And Brown is even worse than Machado, being that he's on the wrong side of his career. He's on the downside. What Antonio Brown was for the last 5 years, not what he's going to be for the next 5 years. And whoever signs him is going to find that out the hard way.
Teddy, talking about some downside out here. How about some downside if you were sitting on an under ticket in the Portland game last night with the Thunder? Marquise Morris, loose ball foul call on a free throw, which happens, I don't know, maybe every single free throw in the game. Refs decide to blow the whistle, ends up sending the game to overtime. Over-backers rejoice, under-backers not happy about it, but a lot of physicality in this ball game, Teddy. But again, we're a gambling show. We like to see how these physicalities impact our tickets.
Sure, and remember, that came on the heels of 2 missed free throws. That's how they got the foul on the loose ball foul. So, I mean, that was a crazy, intense game between two teams that are legitimately fighting for playoff positioning, fighting for home court edge in the first round. Terry Stotts after the game, it was a hell of a game. Went back and forth. Both teams were going at it, physical. The difference was overtime. Yeah, it was. But the end of regulation made all the difference for total bettors. Brutal beat. You had the under in a game that's supposed to stay under the total, but doesn't.
Teddy, on that betting show yesterday, we brought up a game that you might have to bring your brass knuckles to this game. There's not going to be a lot of scoring. It's going to be an ugly game in a senior environment. And yes, it was, and it was brilliant to watch. How about last night, Teddy? UCF boosted himself with a 58-55 victory over Cincinnati, back-to-back wins over ranked opponents. Interesting game because, again, when we're talking about tickets here, you saw an early shift in the morning from -1.5 to -2 to -2.5 at closing time. And sure as anything, Teddy, late in that ball game, a 3-ball rising up at the gun. If it goes down, we go to overtime. If it misses, you cover with UCF and you get that winning ticket there. Great game to watch if you like basketball back in what, Teddy, the 50s and the 60s?
Well, if you had a UCF ticket in your pocket, they covered by the hook. If you had an under ticket in your pocket, as we talked about on the preview about this game on yesterday's show, it's going to be a war. First team to 60 wins. Well, neither team got to 60. They didn't need to get to 60, obviously, with a 58-55 win. But we got to talk about that three-pointer at the buzzer, dude, because this happens every night. That, you know, your three-pointer face, miss. It's such a great face to have. And as a bettor, you all know exactly what I'm talking about. The three-pointer at the buzzer. Although it wasn't the difference between a cover and a non-cover. You still had a chance with UCF had the game gone into overtime.
Yeah, especially with the TV camera angle, Teddy, that you were looking at that game. It was online. It was on target.
It looked
and it was
good.
just short. Hey, man, another inch or two. That's a swish. We're going to overtime. But that was one of those where every once in a while you line up on TV, say, yeah, it looks like it's going to be missed. It looks like it's going to be long or off. That one was a direct line shot there. And let's keep in mind also, nice win by UCF, obviously over Houston, which was a great win. Nice win at home over Cincinnati, ranked opponent. Now you're going to go to Philadelphia on Saturday with a quick turnaround. And Temple, who went to UConn and won, sitting directly on that bubble with a lot of these people calling for like March Madness, the Joe Lunardis of the world, saying Temple's right on that bubble. If they can get a victory over UCF, looks like that's going to punch the ticket. So some interesting stuff coming up on the weekend. Pre-conference tournament next week in a couple of these Power 5 conferences. Major League Baseball, Teddy, first look. Yes, it is March 8th. We're getting closer and closer, 12 days away from opening day in Major League Baseball. We'll take you a different team each and every day right here on that betting show on sportsbook.com. Today, Teddy, Seattle Mariners, 89-73. New look Mariners out. And if we take a look at the odds coming into the season with the odds makers, Teddy, 80-1 ticket to win the 2019 World Series, winning 89 games last year, only set at 72.5 out there from the odds makers.
Yeah, well, the reason that they're set at 72.5 after winning 89 games last year is because it's clear rebuild season, rebuild time for Seattle. You want to talk about 9 trades in the offseason, 9 contributors from the roster gone. That includes their top starter, James Paxton, their closer, Edwin Diaz, their shortstop, Jean Segura, the catcher, Mike Zunino, they finally gave up on. Robinson Cano, no longer in Seattle. These are impact guys, and they're no longer, obviously, with the Mariners. That's why they're lined 72.5. And, boy, you read the previews on this squad, and there's not a lot of people think that they're going to win 72.5 games. This feels like a 70-win team. And, look, they were moneymakers last year, number 7 in MLB in profitability. All their profits came on the road, mind you, not Safeco. And it's not Safeco anymore. I forget the new name, but it's not Safeco. I was reading something, it's not Safeco. They were losers on the run line, no over-under trend a year ago. One thing with Seattle this season is you're not going to have to lay a price with any of their starters. And then again, you look at the back end of this rotation, they're talking about trotting Mike Leake and Wade LeBlanc out for the 4 and 5 starters. King Felix, still the number 1 guy. This is not a starting staff that is going to impress anybody, and it's not a starting staff that on paper is going to win a whole lot of games. You look at the lineup, yeah, there's a lot of hype about the new right fielder, Mitch Haniger. He's a big prospect. You have Kyle Seager and Edwin Encarnacion and Jay Bruce in the middle of the order. But, is Malik Smith a leadoff guy, or is he a 4th outfielder that doesn't deserve to be a starter at the MLB level? We'll find out. In the meantime, Seattle, a team that I don't have anything but a sell sign on coming into 2019. They might be a pretty bad ball club.
And I think it's actually, Teddy, on March 20th. I think it's the Oakland A's and the Seattle Mariners that are going to get it underway overseas. And then a week later, we're going to have Major League Baseball opening up here for us. When we take a look, Teddy, because it's a big ballpark up there. And yes, Safeco, whatever it's going to be called now. The pitching staff it's very underwhelming. But the worst part about it is they did have a little bit of a strength in the bullpen last year, Teddy. Now downgrading their bullpen as well. So we all know, look, sometimes winning and losing, you're only as strong as like the last 6 to 9 outs that you can get in a game. Now they're down, like Anthony Schwarzek's back there. You don't have that lights out close that at least if you get that 3-2 lead in the 9th inning, you bring in a viable option. Doesn't look like they have that this year.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, they look clearly like the weakest team in the division. Yeah. They look as bad as some of the bad teams in the AL Central. They're not the Orioles, but, if I'm projecting out this division, I'm projecting Seattle as the last place team in the American League West. Now, again, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be a huge profits betting against them. There's no starters on the Mariners that are going to attract any betting attention in a positive fashion right from the get-go. But this is not a good team. And, I know the markets know it. 72.5 off a good season last year, but I don't look at Seattle as anything but fade material.
Speaking of betting markets, Teddy, overnight line movers, SBRodds.com, the single best place on the internet to check those odds sources. It never sleeps, Teddy. We like to say these numbers are always moving around. How about the Memphis Grizzlies? Line dropping early Friday action. They open up at +6, now going down to +4.5. If we take a look at this ball game tonight, over under 209, money line -220, +180. But for the Grizzlies and the Jazz, obviously Jazz better team than the Grizzlies, but Grizzlies getting a little bit of home cooking here, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, look, my power rating number was only 3.5 on the game, but I've been higher on Memphis than the general markets have been for the last couple of weeks. And frankly, the markets may be catching up as we see the money come on Memphis early on. Look, since the All-Star break, the Grizzlies just 3-4 straight up, but all 4 losses have been competitive by 6 points or less. They've been in every game. And you think about the bad teams after the All-Star break, well, the veterans are sitting and they're just trying to get young guys. No, that's not what's happening with Memphis right now. The veterans are contributing. You know, Jonas Valanciunas has been a monster for them. Joakim Noah off the bench has been huge. Mike Conley's playing great. Avery Bradley. These are veterans who've been around the league, who've played in the playoffs. They're all in Memphis right now. They're all playing well. I'm not surprised the Grizzlies took money in the overnight hours.
VCU having a really good 2-month stretch here. Opens up as high as 13 on Friday versus St. Joseph's out of Philadelphia. Line drops a little bit now, Teddy, but taking a look at the overall numbers now, creeping up a little bit higher, 12, maybe even a 12.5 out there, but 11.5s are covering the board. Over-under's risen at Chris offshore from 136.5, Teddy, up to 140. Here's my favorite part. One of the more over-analyzed, that the terminology that some people use in betting these games. It's senior night for VCU, last home game. Well, when you look at VCU, Teddy, they don't really have any seniors who even play a distinct amount of time here, but they are playing good basketball, double digits here. Last game of the season, not a ton on the line. If we take a look at like St. Joseph's or like a one-bid league, VCU should be able to handle the business, but can they get it done by double digits tonight?
Well, we've been talking about this theme a fair bit on that betting show in recent weeks. We talk about, why are these lines moving? Look, the trend is the other direction. VCU 9-2 against the spread their last 11. They've been huge moneymakers. But the markets on a broader level are not responding to trends. They're responding to this individual matchup. So, yes, VCU's been a moneymaker. And what's happened is the betting market, the odds makers have been adjusting them up, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. Well, the market's saying it's a little bit too high right now, hence the money coming for the Joes. And let's not, St. Joe's has had a lot of success against VCU. How about 9-1 against the spread the last 10 meetings? Bill Martelli's a crafty guy, and VCU hasn't beaten St. Joe by this big of a margin since 2015. It's been a while. They've covered a double-digit spread against the St. Joe Hawks.
Yeah, when you look at VCU, Teddy, one of the things that we always look at them, that whole havoc pace, they're going to press full court. Keep in mind, St. Joseph's very limited on their turnovers, and that's the reason why probably 9 of the last 10 they've been able to cover. Keep control of the ball against that havoc defense. You should be able to do okay. If we take a look at Watch What You Bet tonight, Teddy, really good NBA slate tonight. Embiid less or not Sixers tonight. When I punched up the script early this morning, Teddy, there weren't any lines out, but the lines did come out, and looking at the overall numbers that we see now, -7.5, total 232, that lends me to believe Joel Embiid is not going to be available in this ball game tonight. Sixers are 31-34 against the spread in all line games this year. Just dropped a bad loss to the Bulls on a back-to-back game on the road just a few nights ago. Rockets 29-33 against the spread, 16-14 against the spread at home, and 10-14 against the Eastern Conference. Now Chris Paul's back in the mix. Should we see a little bit different Houston Rockets team tonight without Joel Embiid for the 76ers?
Well, the Rockets better hope it's different from that first meeting. The first meeting was a one-sided affair. Philly 121, Houston 93, an absolute blowout in that contest. Sixers with the win and cover at home. Now the Rockets look to repay the favor. And it's not like the Sixers have played terrible without Embiid. They're 4-3 straight up, 3-4 against the spread. But they're clearly not the same team. And Houston's not the same team right now they were a month ago either. Yeah, they've still got a couple of guys hurt in Fareed and Shumpert. But it's a mostly healthy rotation. They're riding a season-high tying 6-game winning streak. And they're playing really well. Mike D'Antoni, it's pretty good right now. Maybe too much. That's a red flag. Just trying to walk that line, but I trust my guys. I knew they were going to get it right. Now, obviously, the Sixers not pleased with what happened in Chicago the other night, second night of back-to-backs. They came up short at the end. Tobias Harris, after the loss, quote, "We've been in a couple of games now where the fourth quarter has been tight, kind of the same scenario as this one. Too many home run plays, too many turnovers, not really great execution on our end. When the fourth quarter comes, we've got to find a way to get to the free throw line, get in the bonus, and help ourselves a little bit, make it easier for ourselves, something that we can learn from and progress from." Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But right now, the Rockets are on a roll. Houston's not a team I'm looking to step in front of, especially even in this point spread range. Rockets have stepped it up a notch the last week or two. They appear to be a bet-on team for the first time all year moving forward.
Fighting for the top seed in the West, Teddy. Good one tonight. Nuggets Warriors going to take place at Oracle Arena, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time tonight on ESPN. Nuggets 35-29 against the spread in all line games this year. 10-6 versus Pacific Division foes, the Warriors. And we always use this moniker, Teddy, because we like to talk about the Warriors. They're always in primetime action, but the money burners that they are, 25-38 on the season, 23-35 against the spread as favorites, 11-20 against the number at home this year. But this is a big game. It's a little bit of a preview. And sometimes in this long, monotonous NBA season of 82 games, you finally get a step-up game that says, hey, look, we know you're in second place, a la the Nuggets, or the Warriors in first place. You want to get that little edge saying, you know what, late in the season, we took you down. We'll see you again in the playoffs. Good matchup tonight, Teddy, in the West.
Yeah, sure. There's no question Golden State is taking this game very seriously. Obviously, after returning home from their East Coast trip, getting annihilated by the Celtics in the first game back in the home court, Steve Kerr talking about, hey, we got to respect our fans. This is a game that the Warriors, against the number 2 seed in the West, absolutely have circled. It's going to make a difference. We're talking about a team that has not just been money burners. They're the single worst team in the NBA against the spread this season. The Golden State Warriors, the defending champs, have been your worst bet. 1-10 against the spread, their last 11 overall. Dead last in profitability. During that span, 5 straight up wins without a cover. And to me, that's the red flag. That's when you start saying, all right, this team, we can't bet this team. We start to get the wins, but they're not covering. And yeah, they're winning, but they're not covering. It's been happening with Golden State all year. You know, you look at the numbers for the Warriors. Again, number 1 in the NBA in offensive efficiency. Since DeMarcus Cousins arrived in Golden State, defensively, they're giving up 119 points a game in that span. You know, couldn't get any stops against the Celtics the other night. Cousins, quote, it's an adjustment trying to figure things out with how we want to play with the coverages. I'm trying to meet the needs and coverages they want, but it's an adjustment period right now trying to figure it out. Warriors aren't playing championship defense. They will have Klay Thompson back on the floor tonight, but Denver had that 3-game skid, and they bounced back with a win over the Lakers. You know, that get-right game. Warriors haven't had that get-right game. I'm not laying with Golden State. I'll leave it at that.
No, hey, and it's going to be a good one, and it'll be an interesting one. But you're right, numbers are numbers. I mean, if they're not covering all year long, hey, I'm just going to buck the trend, and sooner or later they'll get it right. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But tonight, Teddy, we got a revenge on the mind in Buffalo. We got a sold-out crowd at Alumni Arena tonight to send these seniors off the right way and all they've done at Buffalo during their time there. This should be a good one because, as I said, it is a revenge game. Bowling Green did knock off Buffalo last time out, and it just seems like in the MAC, when you go around, everybody has that target getting ready for Buffalo. But now Buffalo can actually exact the revenge tonight. Favored by 14, total of 162. Moneyline split plus 775, minus 1100. 6 p.m. tonight on ESPNU. Gearing up for that MAC title, because when we take a look at this, conference, Teddy, MAC's probably going to have a 1-bid league if Buffalo runs through and win this, but they could actually get a 2-bid league if Buffalo gets knocked off somehow in the in the Mid-American Conference. This one should be good. Bowling Green 15-11 against the spread in all line games, 9-6 versus the MAC. Buffalo 16-11 against the number this year and 14-10 as a favorite. Good one tonight, 6 p.m. ESPNU. See what happens.
Do you think if Buffalo loses the tournament, they'll find a way to keep them out of the big dance at 27-3 or whatever they be?
I think
because they might.
I think they get it regardless. Yeah.
If I'm Buffalo, I feel much better about winning that tournament than about losing and then hoping the committee puts me in, even though we do expect them to go in. But look, there are no point spread bargains with the Buffalo Bulls right now. None. Look at the game against Ohio the other night. They were draining threes. They had 15 of them compared to only 3 of 17 from beyond the arc against the Bobcats. Didn't matter. They didn't cover. It's a defensive question for Buffalo right now. Nate Oates, after that win, I was happy with the way we shot the ball in the first half, but I wasn't particularly pleased with our defensive effort, which we need to improve on before Friday. With that being said, and this is another red flag, I am extremely proud of this group for everything they have accomplished this year. Winning the regular season, which they did earlier in the week, was just one of our goals for the season. I'm happy for the guys in the locker room. So I know it's senior night. I know it's all of that. I was the big winner of the week. They have bigger games next week. Revenge, sure. Defense, not quite there. I'm not inclined to lay the big price with Buffalo at home on senior night.
No, and tomorrow, Teddy, it's a shame we don't get to preview live Duke, North Carolina, if that's going to take place tomorrow. It doesn't look like Zion's going to play and maybe holding him out to the ACC tournament. But a lot of interesting information here on sportsbookview.com, setting you up for NCAA March Madness action. Also, Monday, we'll have a nice little release here of a interesting tidbit that you can get in, maybe win some tickets and a flight, get to the Final Four. We'll have some more details on that on Monday. And how about this one, Teddy? Off the mic. Some interesting stuff coming up with drug testing and weed here. If we take a look at, I'm a Sixers fan, watch the end of the Bulls game. It was a calamity. The Sixers lost. Brett Brown couldn't design a play that could even get a shot off with under a half second. But Otto Porter Jr. not on the court for the second play because there was a clock malfunction. Goes into the locker room. They pull him aside. NBA security. Hey, Otto, game's over. Right away, you have to take the drug test. Pee in a cup, send it into the league, see if there's marijuana, whatever, growth hormones in there. He wasn't able to come back. One of the more interesting snafus that you're going to see. But on the opposite end, the NFL comes in with a player that says, hey, look, man, I like to smoke this weed, and I'm quitting until weed is legal in the NFL. Teddy, if SBR came to me and said, you know what, Don, you got to shave your head and have a bald head in order to be on this channel. If I wanted to work here, I would shave my head and have a bald head. What is with some of these players saying, you know what? Forget the millions of dollars. I'm going to stay home. I want to smoke some weed.
Hey, guy wants to smoke weed. What are you going to do, man? He's got enough money to buy it. and now he wants to smoke it. But let's talk about the real difference between these two. The NBA does not test for marijuana. The NFL does. Hence, all the NFL suspensions. And I don't even know the NFL doesn't do it on the reg. They try not to do it because you know that if you're going to test players for marijuana, you're going to get a ton of positives. That's why the NBA doesn't do it. You know, and the NFL is a different animal. We talk about the drug test for Otto Porter after the game the other night. That's something that the NBA is it's the type of thing that may result in a administrative rule change where, you know, you give the guy 2 minutes after he gets off the floor or a minute after he gets off the floor before you go come in here for the P test. Just in case there's some kind of a wild scenario. Because you know what? If Otto Porter's not on the floor because of that, and the Bulls end up hitting a miracle shot at the end with the guy that Porter's supposed to be defending, that then becomes a big deal. In this instance, it wasn't nearly as big a deal because they didn't get the shot off in that instance. But it's the kind of thing that the NBA may want to look at for a policy change. I'll tell you one thing the NBA will not be changing policy on. They will not be testing players for marijuana. There would be no league.
Talking about policy changes, the one policy we have on that betting show is me and Teddy will be here every Monday through Friday giving you the information designed as your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. It's Friday. You guys got the weekend out there, a big weekend, almost ready for Selection Sunday in Major League Baseball. Thank you for tuning in on March 8th, 2019. He's Teddy Severansky at Teddy_covers on Twitter. I'm Donnie Seymour, Right Side VP. Thank you for tuning into that betting show on sportsbookreview.com. Have a great weekend.